So shall we start, sir?
Yes.
So, dear participants, good afternoon to all of you. So we have with us our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Dr. Roshanlal Raina. We have our Director, Institute of Engineering Technology, Dr. Sanjay Goyal, and of course the speaker uh, you are here for. So, uh, our speaker is Ms. Tanu Jain, and we have already introduced her to you through email. But it will be my honor to introduce her again to all of you. Before I introduce her, I like to tell Tanu ma'am, uh, this galaxy of audience has diverse in nature. It is starting from 12th pass students till postgraduate or PhD people. Fine.
Wow.
Yeah, so it is faculty members, it's galaxy of audience outside, and the students who have started their BTech journey or BBA journey or BDAS journey in this university. They just passed their 12th class, and I think 15-20 days back, all had joined JK Lakshmi University. Dear students and participants, we have with us Tanu ma'am. She is actually, I'll say, the prime introduction of her is she's a student of our own director, sir, Director Institute of Engineering Technology, Dr. Sanjay Goyal. 15 years back, she completed her PhD, completed her BTech from JP, Noida. After that, she did her MS from BITS Pilani and worked with several corporations. Then she thought of to plunge into a startup journey, and then she started with the startup journey. And since then, she had worked with many corporations. Now she's the co-founder of GTX Technologies. And with the words of Dr. Sanjay Goyal, not only she's a startup a great entrepreneur, but she's a great motivator also for all the youth, and she motivates everyone. And this is, I think, for first year especially, I will say it's a golden opportunity for all of you that this first session on entrepreneurship is to be taken by such a successful entrepreneur. So I would like to thank Sanjay Goyal sir also for arranging this speaker. And we have with us our Vice Chancellor, sir. We started our ECEL journey right in 2012, but from 2017, the way we have moved ahead. So Tanu ma'am, our entrepreneurship journey has taken place, beautifully. We have crossed several benchmarks. So I request, I think Raina sir will be able to brief it more in that way. Over to Raina sir. Thank you.
No, what am I audible, Umesh?
Yes, sir. Sure.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I will join Umesh ji, who has the responsibility of promoting entrepreneurship and innovation culture at this university, and Sanjay ji, who is your teacher, mentor, for getting us this wonderful opportunity to learn from your life and times the world of entrepreneurship. And it will get duly illustrated by your illustrious switch over from your corporate stint to the entrepreneurial world. So thank you for agreeing to our request to be a part of this industry luminary lecture series, which has been started by this university at the initiative of your mentor, Dr. Sanjay Goyal. And it is doing good because we have had a galaxy of people, gracing this event and sharing with our students, faculty, and us their words of wisdom for the last 2-3 months in particular, which we are witnessing in this pandemic, right? Umesh said the university, JK Lakshmi University, came into being in 2011. And right from that date, this seed of entrepreneurship and innovation was very much in the genes of this university. As he said, we started entrepreneurship cell in 2012, and it kept on doing its bit with students right from that year onwards, right? And the efforts of this cell were recognized, and it was started with NE, and you know what NE is all about. So it started, and that association continues till now, and it will continue. So looking at the efforts that this cell put in place, we got a very handsome pocket money to further the agenda of this entrepreneurship cell with a grant of rupees 10 lakhs. Apart from our own in-house resources from RICO, I'm sure you would have heard that word. And Niti Aayog, understanding what we are as a university, how we are going to inculcate in our students and faculty, and also through us in very many pockets wherever it mattered, the spirit of entrepreneurship and innovation. So Niti Aayog of the Government of India was kind enough to consider us for Atal Incubation Center in 2018. So we are one of the three Atal Incubation Centers in the state of Rajasthan, right, which is operating. Now this government also through MHRD talked about having these institutes which were named as institute innovation cells, and we also took part in that agenda, and ours is also an approved institution innovation cell, and it has so far, that's what Umesh tells me through a small WhatsApp message, has already conducted 85 plus very good activities. Now this Atal Incubation Center at JKILU of the Niti Aayog, just 1 years of its work and experience, it's giving me tremendous joy, because yesterday only we received a kind of a message that whatever we have done during the year, first year, and they have a very structured way of looking at what the centers are doing all over the country. And I was very happy to see that given the kind of feedback we have received, the assessment that we have received on various parameters, which are very, very strictly structured and also evaluated and monitored very, very systematically, very, very transparently. And our manager, our CEO of the Atal Incubation Center, just were very happy to share with me only yesterday that we are ranked one among the top 10 Atal Incubation Centers in terms of the kind of activity mix it has put in place. What are the kinds of people whose ideas are there being worked on in the center? What kind of expertise is being made available? What kind of workshops? Uh, any and every other kind of activities have been done by the center, have been praised a lot. So all I am sharing with you is just to tell you that the culture of entrepreneurship and innovation is very much there. And given the way we started way back in 2012 and in 2020, I think the ecosystem is at its best today, not only nationwide through very many slogans of the country, the mantras of the Honorable Prime Minister, but we at our university are providing as much conducive environment as is possible so that no good idea falls, for want of any kind of help, be it in financial terms, be it in expertise, be it in equipment, be it in labs. So we are there at this university to support any good idea to be taken to a logical conclusion. What my boys and girls and me included and my faculty include, uh, an insightful, session through you as to, it's not something rocket science to go into the world of entrepreneurship. If you have something in you, go out, pursue your passion, and you will make it one day. Because if you cannot do it today, I don't think you will do it any other time. With these few words of giving you a brief about what we are, where we are, I once again join all my colleagues, and I see 114 participants listening keenly, going to listen to your words of wisdom. On behalf of all of them, I extend to you a very hearty welcome, and really many thanks to our colleague Sanjay, who has been able to put excellent resources under this industry luminary lecture series to illuminate boys and girls and the faculty on these fascinating ideas. Over to you, Umesh. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for kind and nice words and a very good beginning of this session. It was really inspirational, and we have been following this journey just because of your motivation and support. Thank you so much, sir. Sanjay sir, if you would like to speak something so that we can start the lecture of ma'am.
At this point, I'll just like to extend a very warm welcome to Tanu. Seeing you in a way face to face after maybe 12 years, yeah, and it is so wonderful to see you. And I remember that very studious girl, and now I am going to learn from an entrepreneur, and the world of business has changed drastically. Uh, uh, those days I wouldn't have ever imagined Tanu being an entrepreneur, and and it was fantastic to see that Tanu has become an entrepreneur, and so that's possible now. Professionals who are not really coming from business families, not necessarily professionals who are very good experts in their own profession, technical profession, they can become successful entrepreneurs in today's economy, and that is what Tanu is going to share with us, how a good technical person can become an entrepreneur, and gone are the times when you need to have a lot of capital in order to become an entrepreneur. This is an era of intellectual capital. So if you have intellectual capital, here is Tanu's story to learn from. Welcome, Tanu. Over to you.
Umesh, it is difficult for us to collect words, but share joy the way Sanjay is beaming with speaks volumes about how much he would be happy to have his own student, not only teaching him but teaching his colleagues and the students at the university. Umesh, over.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Thanks, Sanjay sir, for bringing Tanu ma'am to speak from for all of us. Uh, uh, this is the webinar, and in which I can't really request everyone to give round of applause and welcome Tanu ma'am. But I know that every student is curious enough to listen from you. So I over to you, Tanu ma'am. I'll not take long time, and please start your speech. Thank you.
Okay. Hello, everyone. First of all, I would like to thank Sanjay sir and Rena sir for giving me this fantastic platform to talk about my own journey. This is my first event since I started this journey that I have talked about myself, my journey, my experiences, and all those things. And this talk made me go back into my own life, give a serious thought of what worked, what didn't work, and how this ride has been. And I'll say that, yes, this is the right time when you are in college years. This is the right time to get an idea about what entrepreneurship is all about and how can you get it working for yourself. So this is what you're going to be hearing in the coming slides, which I'll present. And thank you, Umesh sir, for giving such a wonderful introduction. Very nice to hear and see that there's a wide variety of audience we have available with us. And so without any further delay, let me start. Is my screen visible?
Yes, it is visible.
All right. So what you all see here is pretty much what describes me. I am a young lady in front of a laptop, having my specs on with a cup of tea alongside. So I am an entrepreneur in the field of software development. What I expect, what I expect from this webinar is that at the end of the webinar, I want to leave you all with enough food for thought on basically these 3 points: the real life after graduation, the not so fair world ahead, and the roller coaster of hard decisions. And I would consider this as a success if what you see and hear in the coming slides helps you in some way in taking a better informed decisions in your life. Let's start with my academic journey. So after 10, 12, I did my BTech from JP Noida, followed by MS from BITS Pilani. And then comes my academic scores. Now, these scores look decent enough, to me at least. I felt good when I scored a 9 in CGPA in BTech. Actually, I scored 9.6 SGPA, and that was something that I was really proud of. I didn't ever thought that I could do it, but that was a big surprise to me and gave me a very nice feeling. And so all semesters throughout, I felt like this is something which is doable, and maybe I should strive to stay above 9. And in few semesters, I couldn't do that. So my overall CGPA remained at 9.1. And then the similar efforts happened in MS, and then again, I couldn't do it. So the basic idea behind showing you the scores is not to tell you what my scores have been, but there's a hidden meaning behind it. And the meaning is that howsoever, whatsoever these scores are dear to you, they are not industry relevant. They are not industry relevant. So initially, when you pass out from college, these scores form a major part of your resume. But over the period of time, you will see that these scores vanish away. Nobody in the industry is bothered by these scores. All they want to seek is good experience that you have had in the past, which can bring value in their current business. That is what is all about. So if in college years you are running after marks, don't ever do that. Only run after information. Study well and learn well. These are your foundation years, and make it best. Next, let's talk about my campus placements. So I was able to get into the first mass recruiter that came in, and that was Infosys, then followed by Tech Mahindra, and then Sapient. Now, Sapient got me excited because only a handful of students at that time could clear that up. It had serious round of technical interviews, and whatever I learned throughout my engineering years, what was actually tested there. So I was really looking forward to joining Sapient. So maybe that's a question to everyone, that having looked at 3 proposals in hand, which company did I join finally in 2008? Well, the answer is none of these. I could not join any of these companies. And why? Because this came in. So like the unusual times of Corona that we have now, back in 2008 were the similar times when the recession hit and most of the companies delayed their offers and some even revoked them. So from somebody having 3 offers in hand, I was somebody who had none. So I had to start looking for other options, and thankfully I landed up here. So this is Pariksha Labs. This is my first job, very, very dear job to me. This is a service-based startup located in Gurgaon. It was a very small company at that time, only 30 plus employees. And the main part of it was that it was quite far. It was 50 kilometers from my residence, which meant 100 kilometers commute per day. And being the fresher just out of college, I didn't know how to drive, how to manage stuff things. So initially I had to hop onto few buses, change auto, and then do the same thing while returning back. It actually took a substantial number of hours from my day, maybe around 4 to 5 hours. And then think about the monsoon season, because Gurgaon is known to handle monsoons very badly. So in the monsoon season, it even took to 6 to 7 hours. So this journey was commute was quite painful here, but then the work I was doing here was amazing. I totally loved it. Eventually I learned driving, and then I started driving from my home to office, and so 100 kilometers driving each day. And yeah, so domains and technologies. Well, this company was a startup, and I got to work on mainly 4 domains. The media technologies, rich internet applications, publishing solutions, and desktop solutions. And this involved various technologies that I got to work on, like PHP, MySQL, and .NET, and InDesign. So few of these technologies were familiarized to me from the college years, but then there were many new technologies which were introduced through this job to me. So what happens? Let's see at the learnings. What did I learn out of my first job? The first thing that I learned from this job is that I developed an aptitude and attitude to develop a prototype and POCs. A POC is a proof of concept. For somebody who doesn't know, when a client comes for a project to be done, sometimes and very often he asks for a prototype to be developed. And that prototype enables him, gives him a confidence that there will be no technical hurdle in the way of the development of the project. And if the basic thing can be done in a short duration of time, eventually his whole idea can be implemented as the way he wants. So I got a hang of it. I got many such opportunities while being in this particular company. And every day was a new challenge. I got to know new technology and develop such POCs. So it kept me on my toes. Now, eventually, this made me respect deadlines even more because POC is not open-ended. It has a deadline associated with it. Then further, it led to pressure. I worked under pressure, but the pressure is sometimes really good. It works in your favor. So I really could excel under pressure. And one example that I can think of is that one fine day, my senior called me into his cabin and he said me that there is a demo to a client at 8 p.m. at night. And this is the technology on which we have to develop something. And I was like, this is the technology that I haven't even heard of. Nobody in the company ever heard of, but he wants me to do something on it. And that too in a demoable state. This is crazy. This is not doable. But then I'm just an employee and this is the task that is given to me and I must do it. So I said, yes, why not take a chance and do it? So I spent whole day, worked on it, and gladly by 6 p.m. my things were ready. And by 8 p.m. my manager, my senior gave the demo and we went home peacefully, with a very happy, contented feeling. And the next day he came to me and told me that project has been signed. The client is signing the project because he liked the POC so much that he has the confidence in us to give us the project for a longer duration. So this eventually told me that I could really work well under pressure. So and then developing various POCs gave me much more wide exposure to various domain knowledges. And eventually I became a jack of all trades because every now and then I happened to change my technology, my business domain. And so I knew many, many little things of many things, but I did not expertise in one technology. And yes, I happened to realize that if I'm doing some good challenging work, then in being in a startup company, my work is being recognized and so are the returns. And then the last learning from this job is that I became a seasoned driver. Having driven 100 kilometers per day for almost 2 years nonstop made me from someone who was new to someone who was as cool as this. Then after some time, I realized it's time to move on. There were some issues that were bothering me and they were these. So I realized that I didn't want to be a pancake. Now, I had a broad set of skills, but those skills were low and flat. I knew little about a lot of different industries, but I didn't specialize in any of these. I wanted to specialize in one particular technology. So this was the main reason. And then, yes, the travel exhaustion was always there. So I wanted to overcome that also a bit. But when I decided that it's time to move on, here comes another challenge. And the challenge is, which technology should I move on to? Because I have been working in so many technologies. So then randomly, I just picked one technology. And so I remember that once I went for an interview for a .NET skill, and it was shocking to see that I couldn't even answer a single question there. It was a nightmare. It was eye-opener to me. I have never been in such a situation earlier. Now, this made me thinking that what was wrong, whether I was wrong or whether have I chosen a wrong technology, or was he asking some serious questions? What was wrong? So then it came to my mind that I chose .NET, and .NET is one technology which has been in industry for quite a number of years. And so if I choose this as a technology now, there will be innumerable persons in the industry already working on these. And so whenever I go into an interview, there'll be many more persons, more expertise than me. So I hold a lesser chance of getting selected there. So then what can work in my favor? I came up that maybe if I venture into something which is new, which is novel, which is a niche technology, which is not known to many of the people in the industry, then I hold a good chance to build my career. So then I chose Plex, that is Adobe product, to make rich internet applications. I studied that really well, and then I hopped on to my next job. This job uh, this job gave me an opportunity to work on a single technology that I wanted. And this company was again nearer to my residence. So both of my criteria were met. And so I happily joined this job. What came into this job? So this is again a very small company, had limited domains to talk about. So it mainly dealt with data visualization and statistical analysis. And again, it had a very limited tools and technologies. So I was given the opportunity of working only in Flex, which I actually wanted. And so nothing new I learned, I just specialized. But there are a few key learnings that I gained from this job. The learnings were, one is attention to detail and the other is performance. So while I was in my previous job, all I was doing was developing prototypes, developing proof of concepts, which is actually putting something functional as per the requirements of the client. But I didn't ever have time to pay attention to details, to the performance, which actually leads to a great user experience. Now, this is that job which led me learn all these things about a user experience. But again, something was bothering me and I thought, yeah, again, time to leave, time to move on. So then here came my reason to leave this job. So what happened all these years, while 3 years being in the industry and somebody asked me, where do you work? I could not proudly say of my company name because nobody ever knew those companies. And back then, the culture was not very startup pro. At that time, it was MNC's culture. So if you are working in a very recognizable company, then you are doing something good. But if you are doing something good, but in a very not so recognizable company, then maybe you lack something. So this made me have an aspiration to work in MNC so that maybe I can describe myself of what I do in a better manner and so that world recognizes me better. So this is the reason why I left my second job. And then the only challenge with this one was to gain more expertise, because I believe that when I have to work in an MNC, maybe I need more skills honing. So I worked on that, and then eventually I moved on to my next job, TCS. The only point to look here is something worth noticing is that the location of this job was Gurgaon, 35 kilometers from my residence. Now you see, the reason why I left my first job was no more a hindrance since joining my third job, because at this point, what I wanted was just the brand name. So the long commute didn't bother me anymore. So here I see the change, the shift in the priorities over the period of time. Eventually, I did get office transport and my ride was a bit smoother, but yeah, even 35 is a bit too much in these days. TCS worked on few domains. Actually, it works on many domains, but I happen to work on mainly these two domains and fewer set of technologies. So in big MNCs, there's a concept of verticals where each vertical is divided among different domains. And when you join a company, then you join a particular domain. And then that's what defines your journey. I had few learnings in TCS. And these were the one very shocking behavioral thing I observed in the team members of my TCS project was that they had a very different attitude towards people like me because they didn't know my company, and this was very much in sync with my outside world. Even outsiders, my relatives, my friends didn't know where I used to work, so they didn't used to respect me. And same behavior I saw even with the TCSers. So because I felt the need that I need to prove that I'm good at something, and only then they'll recognize me. So this eventually happened on some project. I got a very great feedback from my senior technical architect, and this mail was circulated among all the team members. And then that's how everybody knew what I could do and what I was good at. And that's how people started considering me as a part of their team. The next learning I had in TCS was that there is a predefined set of processes, there's dedicated teams, so you no more have to handle all the things involved in a project development. There are separate teams and you go through them and you are done with it. The last thing that is quite unique to such big companies is that they have a concept of a bench. So not every time will these people have a right job for you, right project for you. What they do that once your requirement in a particular job or when a particular project is done, they put you on bench. And that bench is a pool of persons who are waiting to join some project. And so they are at the mercy of the resource managers who happen to decide what is better for you. If any opportunity comes up, they will sync you, link you with such project, and they can send you to any location, any project, and you don't have quite much of a say there. So having spent around 2 years here as well, I felt then again, yeah, I'm not feeling great here, let's move on. So these were the reasons why I moved on. The first is negative appraisal. So we all know that in a corporate world, we have a review, yearly review. So if you worked really hard and you were expecting A, instead you get a B rating. That is what you call unfair rating. But instead, if you were expecting A and you get a D rating, and not just D rating, you get decrease in your salary. Now that is what I call a negative appraisal. Now, this negative appraisal really hit me hard. It hit me mentally, emotionally, and also financially. This led me to total demotivated state. And why? Why this happened? So the only reason I see this happen is because there was a time when I wanted to switch from Gurgaon location to Noida location, and I had to switch projects. And I told my manager that, see, I want to seek a release from your project. And I was put on bench, I joined another project. So when the rating came up, he gave me this. And there's a concept of bell curve in these big organizations where only few handful of people get to have the A rating, few more than them get B rating, little more C, and then finally D. So giving me as a D rating opened doors for my other colleagues to get A rating, to get B rating, because I was of no more use to their earlier project. So this is the only reason why I was given a D rating. He did right, maybe that was his job to do as per the process of TCS, but this didn't go well with me. I didn't like it. And eventually the second project that I joined in TCS after being of 2 months on bench maybe was nothing in sync with my skills. So I felt that my skills were underutilized. So I thought maybe this is done here and I need to switch on to next company. And so came HCL. So this is again a similar company with similar things, similar processes, and I just wanted to try my luck out here. So the good thing was it was in Noida, it was 15 kilometers from my residence, and it was giving me the type of work I was seeking. I wanted to work on that one particular technology, and it enabled me to do that. Then again, it had a limited domains and very limited technologies that I happened to work on. And then again, that time came when I felt like it's not working for me. The one reason again here, which was common with TCS as well, was that I felt my skills were underutilized. The second thing that I felt was I had conflicting interests. So I, all my life, had been of a developer mindset. I was a web developer who felt great in developing cool features, implementing new features. But what I was asked to do was a maintenance job, and that didn't go very well with me. And since I didn't like that job, probably I didn't perform really well there. So this further led me to a feeling of self-doubt. Am I good enough? Is this job right? Am I doing job right? Because I see others are doing right. So maybe I'm not doing right, something bad with me. And this all led to mental exhaustion. So there were times when I really hated going to office. I really didn't. And that was a really, really bad time. And so I thought I have to and see what I can do next. So there came a challenge. And the challenge was a decision time. Now, all this while, when all these things were happening to me, I was not feeling great at work and mentally exhausted and all that stuff. One single thing, one small thing I was doing right. And that right thing was that outside my office work, I picked up some development work of the technologies I knew and build upon it. So I got better and better, and I started looking forward to my non-office hours in which I got to do something that I really loved. And so when the time really became worse in my professional front, I started thinking that I deserve a sense of fulfillment and satisfaction in my workday. And I cannot do that unless I use my full potential. It was a really hard decision, and we have many more slides coming up regarding that. But then what happened? This guy came up. So this is my entrepreneurship venture that I started after HCL. Very cool thing about it is that I started it being at home. Diversified domains, very great exposure to technologies, and I'm a full stack developer. So I get to develop or work on all the things that I like. This has been my longest tenure so far, 6 years, and I'm not even a bit dissatisfied here. So I am hopeful that this is going to stay. Let's talk about the domains. Well, variety of domains. I think many have been covered so far, and multiple projects under each domain have been done regarding technologies and tools. Few are the same, which were introduced originally in my college years, then few of the earlier jobs, but then many new came up. And I think this is my current technology stack that I work on. Quite a good list. I'm really proud of that. I got the opportunity of working on these in my current job. So next is, where have I reached so far in the span of 6 years? So I have 45 plus happy clients, and I have delivered 60 projects across the world to various clients. After talking all about this, you see, I have been in various type of companies. The first was a startup, small company. Then second was a service-based big companies. And third was my own entrepreneurship. And now when I look back, I see where did I grow the best and where did my growth was worst. You see, there's a red line in the graph, the bottom one. This determines service companies. So this is where when it eventually stays up at the point where you initially begin. They give you a 3-month training, they put you on a job, you started excelling at the work you do, but then over a period of time, your skills actually started going down. Your learning takes a down curve. And why is that? Because you continuously stay on that particular project, and then you happen to eventually forget what you initially learned, and you don't get the exposure to update yourself, keep yourself up to date with the market. Startups, however, has a great potential. So what I learned in my initial 2 companies is really great. I think it planted the seed in me of the entrepreneurship at that point, because of which I am here, what I am today. So this gave me a steep learning, which was really exciting. I learned it. I enjoyed it. And anybody who is in a startup is bound to grow. While being in an entrepreneurship, it's a totally different story. So you really get your hands on in each and everything. You not only grow on your own technology, but you also grow on various aspects of project delivery. So in project delivery, various other things comes into picture, and you happen to grow in each one of these. There may be a time in life when you think like, I'm done with it, I don't want to learn anymore, and then you want a stagnant growth, keep it constant. But then again, you have to pick up. And that's why, because in the ever change IT world, you cannot be complacent. You have to adapt to what's going on in the market, what industry needs. And that's why I see that the graph will always be in the up direction in case of entrepreneurship. Next comes the mental hindrances while stepping into entrepreneurship. So I did switch. I did make this decision, but this decision was never easy. I had my fair share of doubts and apprehensions. I have been in a comfort zone for quite long, and coming out of it wasn't easy. So first thing that gave me a fear was the possibility of uncertain finances. I have been in a habit to see monthly credit into a bank account, but switching into entrepreneurship meant that there will be no CTC. I don't know how much would I earn in the coming year. This would vary. The next thing that gave me a bit of apprehension was whether would I be able to cope up with the market demanding skills. Till date, I have been able to take up the challenges and adapt myself, but would I be able to do it more longer? I don't know. Also, I just don't need to be a developer. I need to be everyone. I need to be a tester. I need to be good at project management skills. I need to be good at marketing. I need to be good at sales. Whether would I be able to do justice to all these roles? Again, I didn't know. And last is that it's like a one-man army. I am the final problem solver to all my issues, all my things. In my earlier professional journey, if ever I got stuck somewhere and technically, then I had my seniors to look up to, and it was eventually their problem to solve because I was done with it. But if I step into this mode, then I am the ultimate problem solver. So it's a one-man army. I don't know whether would I be able to sustain it. But then having these set of mental hindrances, even then I moved ahead, and let's see what pushed me into taking this plunge of entrepreneurship. The first thing was that I lost the passion for work over all these years. I wanted to stay as a software developer, and all these companies were pushing me into a different zone where I didn't want to be. The second point is again related to the first point, that all the responsibilities and tasks which were assigned to me were not in sync with what I wanted out of myself. And so again, I got demotivated. I didn't like it. Eventually, it led to a constant feeling of self-doubt. Then there was a bell curve I talked about earlier. I didn't like the way the evaluations are done in these big companies. As per me, if I am hardworking enough and I'm doing justice to my job, I should get equable returns. But that is not going to happen. The things will work as per luck. If I have to get good grades, good rating, somebody else have to do bad. And this goes opposite to my ethics. I don't want bad of somebody. I want everyone to grow. This didn't work there. The next was capped incomes. And the last, I thought that I have been able to deliver challenging tasks earlier, and maybe I can do it again. Last thing that pushed me, that really made me take up this plunge, was that I had a very supportive husband who stood by my every decision. So having his back, I really delved into it and took this plunge. After being 6 years in this entrepreneurship journey, I can tell you that this is the best job so far, and this has been my best decision. But why do I think so? The reason is the satisfaction and motivation that I get here is unparalleled to all my previous jobs. I see constant growth and development in myself. There's good opportunity for income. I work without fear. So I don't fear of the layoff, terminations, all those things. I'm untouched. The Corona times didn't impact me. I see so many posts on LinkedIn these days seeking new job opportunities because they have been laid off due to Corona times. And I feel so thankful to God that the kind of work that I do don't put me in such fear. Next thing is that I can decide whom I want to work with. I am the captain of my ship and I decide which client should I work with, which project should I work with, and which technology do I need to work with. All that is in my hand. This one, own your time. This is really critical. Now, I do have the flexibility to decide what do I do in my own time. I can plan my time around my career and my family. Now, I am a busy mom of 1-year-old or 4-year-old kid, and I can tell you that I feel so satisfied, so contented that I've attended his each and every meeting, parent-teacher meeting, his test, his competitions, everything. I've been there with him all through while. Even today, I attended one of his parent-teacher meeting. So I'm really contented at that front that I'm not neglecting my family. There has been times when my family needed me more than my career, and I was able to support them just because the type of my work was like that. Location was not a restricting thing for me. I can work from anywhere, and so I'm really satisfied on that front. The next is freedom to travel and relocate. Well, most of us would agree now that since Corona times, we all have been working from home. And so if you can do that lifelong, maybe then the location is no more a barrier anymore and you can work from anywhere you want. All you need is just a laptop and an internet connection. And so for me, I like traveling, and I have had few of the best trips around the world just because of the type of work I have been doing. And lastly, I feel more grateful for work. Having worked in big organizations, sometimes we take work for granted. We see that every month there'll be a credit of salary in your bank account. But when you have to negotiate, when you have to put a lot of blood, tears, your sweat into getting that business and then getting it done, then every penny holds a new meaning. You get a newfound respect for work and for money. So if I have not been an entrepreneur, rather stayed like a corporate developer, maybe I'll have been more isolated. I knew only few of my restricted colleagues. I would have taken lesser responsibilities, maybe did that very well with narrow visibility on the project. Where is it going? I don't know. It could have hampered my career like it did in my previous organizations. I was given a bad rating, bad salary wise, and this is how pretty much my life could have been. But what it is now is that I have a good social network around the globe. I'm jack of all trades. I steer my ship. I decide what is good for me. And I have the view of my entire business. Having said so, I see the entrepreneurship has worked great for me, but owning a company is risky. For a corporate developer, the major two risks that I see is the stagnant growth and capped income. Whereas I see for an entrepreneur, the autonomy which eventually everyone seeks is actually risky because you happen to decide everything for yourself. You are the final decision maker. You are the final action taker. This is not always pleasant. This often leads to stress, and this often leads to threat to work-life balance, leading to burnout phases. It's mentally draining because you have to take care of everything and no one is going to take care of all these things on your behalf. So if you have to think, do you have the caliber to become an entrepreneur? Do you have those skills? Do you have that aptitude? Then this slide tells you what it all takes to be an entrepreneur. So the motivation and passion is what will make you enter into entrepreneurship. But self-discipline is something that will keep you in it. It will help you retain that job that you're doing. It is of utmost importance because there's no manager above your head. There's nobody scolding you. There's nobody watching your time or your work, nothing. You're doing for yourself and you're responsible for each and every action of yours. And then to some extent, I think even the decisive and action orientedness is what somebody needs to have, because again, everything has to be done by you and you cannot delegate such tasks. Now, if I look back on my journey of 6 years of entrepreneurship plus my earlier 6 years of being in the corporate world, I have few key learnings, 7 key learnings. The first thing is choose your first job wisely. Now, why I say this is because I have been there and I think I see the switch or shift in my mind regarding this. Don't run after brand names. See what puts you and gives you tasks to your full potential, what keeps you interested, what makes you do what you love. Act accordingly. Don't just run after brand names. Don't run after incomes. Salary will follow. If you do great job, you will have ample number of years to earn money. But that should not be the criteria of your first job. The next is keep yourself market ready. Now, why I say this is that when I came here in this IT world, I realized that this is ever-changing IT world. Every 6 months, there's a new technology. Even I feel sometimes very outdated because I happen to learn some technology now, and then after 6 months, I have to learn again new technology, and that stays for a year and two, and then again something new comes up. So you have to be in the market. You have to keep yourself market ready. Being here for 12 years, I'll say that you should not compare your journey with anybody else because every individual is unique and so are their circumstances, their decisions, their everything. I mean, don't just compare your journey. You're doing good. If you are satisfied, if you're doing what you love, then you're doing great. Then this thing, brand names. Yes, very, very big learning for me because at some point of time I was running after brand names. So I see this shift in myself now. You see, from startup companies, I joined TCS just because I wanted a brand name. And then from HCL, I started this entrepreneurship journey where nobody knows me. And I really don't care who knows me. I'm really doing what I love and that's it about it. All this while, just stay hungry for knowledge. The college years are really foundational. Your initial years in your job are really foundational. Make the most of it. Always, always be open to learn and understand more. And then I'll say that perfection is overhyped. Well, everybody asks, do your job right, be perfect at this thing, be perfect at that thing. But what I'll say is that perfection is overhyped. Be realistic. In long run, if you'll try to perfect your career, then your family life will get impacted. If, however, you try to make your family life perfect, then you'll make some compromises in your career. This will not give you a good feeling. What sustains is a balance between your career and family because both are equally important. And the last one, celebrate small wins. Don't wait for one life-changing moment to be happy about. Just be happy about anything. Your first customer, your first piece of code that you wrote in a new language that you learned, first bug that you fixed after a struggle of few days. You have to find reasons to stay happy because in this world of entrepreneurship, there'll be nobody to keep you motivated. It's just you that you have to keep yourself motivated enough. And so finally, I'll close this talk here by saying that as I look back in my life, I realized that every time I thought I was rejected from something good, I was actually redirected to something better. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Tanu. Uh, am I audible? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So thank you so much, dear participants. This was really a wonderful talk. If you see the talk by Tanu ma'am, she started from Pariksha Labs. No, there was also seven learnings she highlighted from Pariksha Labs. Now at the end, she has shared the 7 key learnings from her, startup. And if you see her life so far, professional life so far, you can really correlate your life with that, with her, because after doing your professional program like BTech or MTech, ultimately you need to go through each and every aspect. And this session was not only for startup enthusiasts, those who are looking for jobs or looking for placements, even looking for higher education. This session was like was having a lot of learnings for all of the people. A very important key learning was like you should not go run for brandings. This is really very important. She started from Pariksha Labs. She worked for TCS and SCL all, and then she highlighted the challenges from her professional life, and then she also highlighted key risk factors of entrepreneurial journey. So I'll say that whenever you have time, we'll provide you the recordings. Please always see this recording at every stage of life. That will inspire you. But I'll not be staying between the audience, like participants and there are few questions, ma'am. Then let me. So I'll not edit it more because it is from the students. Some are more or less are from students. There's one question that was really very interesting is what is the difference between entrepreneur and solopreneur? So you can see that in question and answer round. Navneet Jain has asked this question. Difference between entrepreneur and solopreneur.
Well, I'll say that whatever term you give to yourself is just your own term. It doesn't really matter what world calls you. What matters is what you think of yourself. So if you have an idea and you can get it implemented and you're passionate enough, then just go for it. And if you see that there's something that it's just right, sometimes it happened in my life that few of my friends came up with few ideas and I was quite not convinced with those ideas. Being in the technology stream, I could have worked on those and built up to it. But since I didn't believe in the idea, I couldn't put my heart and soul into it. So when you see there's an opportunity, when you see that moment happening in your life, that this is something that keeps you motivated and going, just grab it. So it doesn't matter at the end what eventually world calls you.
Thanks. One question, of course, that's really valid question. That when you start your entrepreneurial journey, how do you get project? First piece of work makes a difference. For that you need to work a lot. So the student is asking that what efforts you really put in for your outreach effort or promotions, or what documentation you have done, so that you could have that first project in your hand on GTS technology.
Yes, so as I mentioned, while I was being in HCL, I tried my hands out on some development project outside my office hours. And in order to get that project, I had to look for the technology that were relevant to me and the projects, those were relevant to this technology. So then there are some websites which help you find such jobs. They are looking for somebody who is not working full time, but can devote a decent number of hours there. Then I see there's great opportunity in LinkedIn these days. So many ample opportunities are there where even the recruiters are reaching out and even job seekers are there. And those are not just full-time employments. They are actually looking for contractual or maybe a part-time thing. And this is where you can start. You don't have to take the plunge initially right there. Just see how it goes and then dive into it. And then I happened to work on few of the niche technologies, the novel technologies. So I reached a state where I didn't have to find a project. The project found me. These have been the cases with me. And then as and when we grow, we develop so many technical connections, so many social connections, so many good clients, so many recurring clients, that you eventually don't have to worry about the inflow of projects. They just happen. Just stay in the market, keep your skills up to date, and it will happen.
Please said, ma'am. It is actually true. So, I think it's a nice answer. One question, you highlighted many challenges. I consider challenges also like learnings. You highlighted, learnings and then time to move on. And that time to move on, one of the parameters was challenges. One of the students is asking that you highlighted the challenges of your entrepreneurial journey at GTS Technologies also. What is the highest challenge you come across, and how did you overcome that? That you consider that the highest. Yeah.
Okay, so I have briefly talked about this earlier, but let's talk more about this in detail. Is that once you land here, there is no turning back. If I have to stay relevant into the job I'm doing, I have to keep upgrading my skills. So there was a period of time, maybe say 3 to 4 years after I started this journey, was that I didn't want to learn anything new. I was happy and contented in the zone I was in. I was actually tired maybe of learning new things. I was actually doing great project wise, and all my projects were in the technologies I wanted to stay relevant in. And so there was a phase, but then there came a point when I started to observe that the market is demanding something else, and I'm still not there where it needs to be. So maybe the projects I have now may not be there few years later. And so if I have to keep it going, I have to keep myself market ready. I have to keep myself upgrading in all the technologies what industry needs. So that is one phase that sometimes you do not feel like doing it, but you still have to do it because that is what is the need of the hour. And other challenge that I see in entrepreneurship that is also equally important and equally big is an effort to strike a work-life balance. So in office hours, there's fixed 9 to 5 kind of job. Generally, that happens more outside India, because I happen to see many of my clients that they stop working immediately at 5, sharp 5, and they stop working. That is not the culture in India, however. So in India, you will see employees working, slogging late hours, even putting their weekends here and all that stuff. But still, since you are in some employment, there is some end to your work throughout the day. But when you're into your entrepreneurship, there's no such end, because nobody defines that end. You are somebody that has to define that end. So it becomes challenging because you are always involved in your work, always thinking of your work, but then you have to live a life, you have a family to take care of. And so when you're doing that, maybe again you are thinking of your work, and then you're not doing justice to your family. So somewhere you have to consider that you have to work towards striking a balance between these two. And that is quite challenging. Any more questions?
Umesh, are you there? I think Umesh, I'll try to pitch in here. Umesh, are you there?
Am I audible now, sir?
Yes, you are. Yeah, please go ahead. Please go ahead.
Okay. Sorry, there was some instability in my internet connection. So there was one question, very interesting. Students are asking that, there are many courses on entrepreneurship. Can entrepreneurship really be taught, or is it experienced from the, learning that you have in your profession?
I think it depends on a person. Uh, you can watch innumerable videos, go through many online courses, and what it can do to you is just to guide you. Even if after listening to innumerable such videos, it's possible that you're still not convinced with the idea of entrepreneurship and what they are trying to teach you. It's just because you are you, it doesn't click to you. So if there's something that you are passionate about, you're committed about, then even first video of entrepreneurship will click to you. If you don't have anything such in your mind, or maybe you are already liking your day-to-day job, you don't need this challenge in your life, you're living a contented life, then how many whatsoever videos you go on and study about entrepreneurship, it will not click you. Even after you enter entrepreneurship under the pressure, maybe somehow you won't be able to retain it, you won't be able to sustain it. So it is something that has to be from inside. These all information can guide you to perform or take better informed decisions, but finally the call is yours.
Thank you. I know we are basically, we have already passed your time and it's more than 3. But I'll take one more question. It's a, I think, very simple question one student has asked, but no question is irrelevant. So the student is asking, what do you mean by market ready? What do you mean by market ready? So
Market ready. Okay, so see, I have spent 12 years, and I'll tell you few of the technologies in which I worked initially. Those were .NET, Plex, Adobe InDesign, some scripting, some JavaScript, and all those things. Now, if I think that I already know all these technologies and I see that these are good enough, 12 years down the lane, you will find yourself in a very problematic situation that you will not find a good, decent job for you. Forget entrepreneurship. Even if you want to stay in a normal IT job with these MNCs, any startup, any small company, any big company, anywhere, these technologies are no more in use. The world we live in, I can talk only about IT, especially because that's my domain. So at least in IT world, it's changing so fast that you cannot rely and be complacent about the technologies that you already know. You have to be a learner throughout your life. And so when I say you have to be market ready, I mean you have to keep a watch, an eye on what market needs, what technologies are being used and what technologies are fading away slightly. So when this change happens, you have to adapt yourself to such market changing scenarios and then act accordingly. In this way, you will never be obsolete. You will always have ample opportunities to work at.
Thanks, ma'am. I think your entire, talk and answers to the questions carry the answers to many questions that are posted by the students now. So, dear students, I think it was an excellent talk. If you have further questions, please write to us. We'll send to Tanu ma'am, and I request her to answer them on email if she prefers it. I'll now hand over to Dr. Sanjay Goyal to give his concluding remarks. Thanks, ma'am.
Thank you, Umesh. Thank you, Tanu. It was a wonderful session. I really felt, I enjoyed it thoroughly. And you were speaking from the heart. And, it was wonderful. So here is a studious student, very, very studious student. I had actually forgotten that you were a gold medalist. I mean, you just reminded me that you were, right? yeah, but wonderful. So did you during the college days, as I failed in recognizing an entrepreneur in you, did you also fail like me during those days to recognize the entrepreneur in you, or you knew inside you that you might become an entrepreneur?
Well, honestly speaking, I never ever thought I could become an entrepreneur. I never visualized my life like that. It's just the sequence of events that happened and that led me in this direction. And like my closing remark, I said that in my journey, quite a couple of times I felt that I was being rejected from good opportunities and maybe I deserved it and I still couldn't get them. But
I used to
I
see
don't
a
know the
future
longer
professor
plan.
in you. I used to see a future professor in you. But yeah, so just to share with you, you reminded of that Pariksha Lab story. Arvind Jha was one of the speakers few months ago, and we hosted him, and he came, and yeah, he also spoke here on this platform. So I wanted to share one story of a client who was overwhelmed and whose expectations were hugely exceeded by the work that you had done as an entrepreneur, and who just keeps on bringing
Um,
more work to you, or from his or her own organization, or through the referrals.
is that the second question or the link to the first one? I didn't get it.
No, I'm just saying that, do you have a client like that whose expectations were greatly exceeded, and through your project work as an entrepreneur and developer? You are a developer entrepreneur. You are not just an entrepreneur who organizes a team and makes them do the work and is mainly bothered about the marketing and the finance and and people management. You are a developer entrepreneur, much like the architects are. So you have a team of developers working with you, but you are a lead developer yourself. Okay, so as a developer entrepreneur, this is a new breed amongst the engineers. Okay, and software industry is very much encouraging this kind of entrepreneurship to happen. So you would certainly have many clients whose expectations were hugely exceeded by the delivery that you made in terms of quality, in terms of user experience, in terms of reliability, or you added something that he or she was not even expecting, as from your own side. So do you have some such little story to share, and that person keeps on bringing more business to you?
Yes. So when you say this question, I can think of mainly two projects. One was related to e-learning, and how it started was again with a POC, and that was again in a new technology that I hadn't worked in earlier. And that project, when we delivered the POC, there was, the payments with clients sometimes become an issue, but that hasn't been so far with my journey. But when I see with other people, that sometimes becomes an issue. And so what we were trying to ensure is that if I'm delivering some code to somebody, and that somebody is a stranger to me initially, then that stranger gives me what was agreed upon. And so there was a slight discussion and disagreement over there, and I thought maybe this is the end of it and this is the POC, I'll get my money and I'll be done with it, I'm not going to work with it. But eventually what happened, that I got to work with this client for 4 consecutive years. I became the lead developer for him, for his project, and eventually we both gained so much trust in each other that he was never ever questioning me about anything. He gave me so much liberty in everything I did, and he was always full of praises of the work I did, because through our discussions, I was able to put up right questions, provide right solutions, to foresee what this could lead to, and this kept him happy. So it's more about the relationship between the client that you develop, and that also keeps you going. So that is one project that is very near to me. I remember I also went on to maternity leave, and this client was still there waiting for me to come back. And then he said, as and when you'll want, I'll be happy to join you, have you back again on my project. And within, I'll say 1.5 months, I was back on my project, again took the steer of the project. And yeah, I think we did great. And the other example is one of my clients in Netherlands. So when we started with him, we were just a contractual people. We had a contract between us, and at that time, that company was also small, but that was 5 years ago. And now, over the period of time, he didn't initially believe in the concept of contractors. He didn't like Indian people because he thought Indians don't have good ethics, don't have good moral values. But having worked with him, when he had experiences with us, today is the day when I think we have crossed 5 years plus with him, and he is now more keen to hire more such remote people. He is building his remote team because now he has gained that trust in remote people because he has seen us working with him. And so obviously our delivery has been up to the mark and maybe even exceeding expectation, because that is what it keeps us going. If any client is not happy, definitely he's not gonna stay up with you for very long. He'll going to terminate it, but that never has been the case. So yeah, the work speaks for itself.
Thank you. Thank you. Umesh?
Yes, sir. Thank you. We have BC sir with us. I believe if he concludes with his own.
No, I have utmost pleasure, Tanu. Tanu incidentally happens to be my daughter's name as well. So I have utmost pleasure in expressing my sincere thanks on behalf of all of us here. You know, all these tips are really coming from the heart, as Sanjay said, and there is a lot for each and every one of us who were attending this meeting. Students, definitely, in particular, to take home. And all these simple little things that you said and shared from your heart. You know, there's nothing rocket science that you talked about and which I like the most. And all that you had gone through, you know, people have the glamour of, you know, pouncing upon this corporate world, pouncing upon in the corporate world on these branded things. You know, they land up getting good salaries to begin with for sure, but they feel so dejected, you know, in a matter of months. And when they feel dejected, they have nothing to look back upon. So these insights will be very, very useful and relevant to our students, right? Because I see for a country like India, given the times we are in, I see in each and every youth of this country, in each and every student of our university, inside them, Tanu is there. Tanu-like people are there. So if they give those kinds of things, the treatment they deserve, we will have wonderful India of the youth who will not be always looking for jobs, who will be looking for providing jobs. It is just that they have to take a step and they have to take that small little calculated risk to begin with, which will depend on what expertise they have. If they are sure of that, they can make it. Thank you so very much. And we look forward to your being with us in more ways than one. This was good start, and we would love to have your engagement with us going forward, because each and every word that you can share will change the lives of people, right? I'm sure many students who are there in the meeting would have got a cue and clue that all the time they have not to be just worried about, you know, whether this company or that brand, they can do something, particularly in the IT world, which is what would I say, which is experiencing the turbulence of the highest ever times. Anything is changing every other day, but the technology is experiencing, you know, what kind of technologies we are familiar and we are working with today may be obsolete after a year or so, given the times that we are. So it's better, you know, and we have fortunately the computer science engineering department of ours, not that I'm dissuading and discouraging others, is humming with the kind of talent, right people. So these words will be very useful. Thank you so very much. Over to Umesh, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thanks, everyone. On behalf of the students, I thank Tanu ma'am for this wonderful session and its exciting journey. At the conclusion, I would like to inform each and every participant that we are organizing one more webinar by Triple City by Dr. Santosh Kumar Nair on changing communication dynamics at workplace. So I invite each and every one of you.
Umesh, permit me. I know a little bit about communication. So along with this spirit of, you know, entrepreneurship, which is the buzzword of today, communication, my dear students and faculty, is your lifeline to stay healthy. So please give that session the treatment that it deserves and be there in numbers. That's a very interesting session, which has many such similar things for you. So enjoy that session as well. Okay.
Thank you so much. With the expectation to meet again with Tanu ma'am, I'm closing the session. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, everyone.
Sir. Thanks, sir and director. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.